Death, something I try to avoid on a daily basis, unlike most of the villains in Disney movies. Seems to me like almost every classic Disney villain ends up meeting an early demise, but which one of these dastardly characters got it the worst? That's what we're going to find out. So today I've got a list of 20 different Disney villains who all meet a tragic end, and I'm going to be ranking them by which one I think would be the worst way to go. So let me know in the comments which characters you think got it the worst. First up, Gaston, Beauty and the Beast. After leading a mob to the Beast Castle to confront him, Gaston and the Beast get into a huge battle where the Beast ultimately spares his life. But Gaston just couldn't leave things like that and decides to literally try to backstab the Beast. But the Beast recoils in pain, knocking him off balance, falling off the side of the castle. We don't see the body or anything after, but the animators did let us know exactly what was happening by putting some skulls in his eyes. It's a pretty telling sign, I'd say. I think this one's pretty tame. I mean, yeah, falling to your death would definitely suck, but as I'm sure you'll see by like halfway through this video, when you're a Disney villain, that's just kind of par for the course, man. Definitely could be worse. So we're going to start off on a C tier. Scar, the Lion King. After murdering his own brother and then banishing his nephew Simba, Simba returns to claim his spot as king and take down his uncle Scar. Giant fight ensues between the two, during which Simba gets the upper hand, but Scar tries to turn things around by placing the blame entirely on his minions, the hyenas. Simba spares Scar's life, at least on his own end, before tossing him off a cliff just like he did to his father. And you might think, hey, that's a pretty poetic ending, falling to his death just like he made Mufasa. But nope. Instead of the fall being the end of Scar, he instead survives and now has to answer to the hungry henchman that he just betrayed, who, well, eat him alive. Yeah, that's a bit worse. I think I would much rather just fall to my death than end up being eaten alive by hungry and, let's face it, angry hyenas. Like, it would be different if they were just starving and I was food, but no, they are starving and pissed off. Not a good combo. Honestly, I think this is going on S tier. Shan Yu, Mulan. After wreaking havoc all across the land, Mulan and Shan Yu face off finally and have an epic battle on the rooftop of the palace, which culminates in her tricking him, pinning him to the wall, and stealing his sword. Now, for Mulan, that's basically the end of the battle, but her animal sidekicks were basically like, nah, as Mushu and Cricket light a giant firework aimed right at him, which then propels him into a tower filled with more fireworks, causing a massive explosion, with Shan Yu right at the center of it. After all the destruction and pillaging the dude has done throughout the course of the movie, it's kind of fitting to have a pretty explosive ending here. This one's pretty rough. Not only are you being humiliated and defeated, but then you're killed by fireworks, basically going from a feared warlord to a 4th of July accident. Not quite S tier though, so I'd probably go like A tier. Frollo, Hunchback of Notre Dame. After chasing the main characters, Quasimodo and Esmeralda, onto a balcony, it seems like all is lost when Quasi's hanging off the edge above fire and molten metal. As Frollo stands on a gargoyle, sword ready to strike, demonic energy just flowing from his self-righteous eyes as he says the words,
"And he shall smite the wicked and plunge them into the fiery pit."
which I think he probably regretted, as the gargoyle breaks and sends this vile, wicked character into, well, a fiery pit. So not only do we have the standard falling here, but if he even managed to survive the fall, he's landing in a pool of just melted metal, basically. Don't think he's getting back up from that one. Definitely a bit worse than your average Disney fall, but this guy definitely deserves worse than average. So let's go B tier. The Evil Queen, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. After tricking Snow White into eating the poisoned apple, she's chased off by the dwarves, riding deerback. They corner her on a cliff where she's about to roll a giant boulder onto them to try to get away, until Mother Nature says, "No you," and the cliff she's standing on is struck by lightning, sending her plummeting below. Now the thing here is, I don't know if she just fell, or if that boulder she was trying to roll onto the dwarves actually ended up landing back on top of her. So if it was just a standard fall, I'd probably go C tier. But from my point of view, I think she's getting smushed by that rock, dude. So let's go with a B tier. Maleficent, Sleeping Beauty. After transforming herself into a giant fire-breathing dragon, which I did cover in my Coolest Dragons video, wink, wink. Did I not wink? Maleficent and Prince Charming battle one another until she has him cornered on top of a cliff. Things seem bleak for the prince until the fairies step in and charm his sword so that when he throws it, it pierces her heart, before she plummets from the top of the cliff, and as he looks down, turns into nothing but ash. So what all do we have here? Sword through the heart? plummeting from a giant cliff, and turning into dust. Maleficent is a damn triple threat, dude. Let's go with an A tier. The Horned King, Black Cauldron. And the award for most horrifying death goes to... Seriously, this dude got off terribly here. After successfully locating the titular Black Cauldron, the villain of the movie, the Horned King, decides to try to throw the protagonist in it as a sacrifice. But the cauldron has other plans and instead decides to take good old Hornhead himself, tearing what little flesh this guy has left off of him as it consumes him until he's nothing but a skeleton, which then gets vaporized and sucked inside. What a peaceful way to go. For real though, with him being one of Disney's most terrifying villains, it's only right that he has an absolutely horrifying death. Pretty much every bit of this sounds like the worst case scenario. I'm going S tier. Ursula, the Little Mermaid. After tricking Ariel into becoming her property, her father Triton, the King of the Sea, offers to take her place so she can go free. But doing so gives Ursula the power of the sea, and so she tries to exact revenge on Ariel. However, her love interest, Prince Eric, comes to her rescue, and in the scuffle, Ursula accidentally murders her beloved pet eels, causing her to go into a fit of rage and turn herself into basically a monstrous kaiju. She forms a whirlpool, which raises a bunch of ships to the top of the sea, which Eric climbs onto and steers one right into her, impaling her right as she's struck by lightning. Talk about bad luck. This one's a bit of a twofer. Not only is she getting stabbed by a giant wooden ship, but being struck down by Zeus at the same time apparently. Definitely not how I'd want to go out. I think this one deserves an A tier. Clayton, Tarzan. Another classic Disney fall, but this time with a twist. Well, technically a couple twists. Throughout the movie, Clayton doesn't trust Tarzan due to his wild side, but eventually it gets to him so much that his own wild side emerges as he tries to hunt him down. He follows him into the jungle canopy, but manages to get snagged up in a bunch of vines. He starts violently hacking at them to try to free himself without noticing just how wrapped up he is. Tarzan tries to warn him, but it's too late as he hacks the last vine and is sent falling before it tightens around his neck. This might be one of the most disturbing deaths in a Disney movie, especially with the shadow showing the aftermath. However, it might also be one of the quickest and least drawn out. He's violently cutting, realizes his mistake, and then oops, too late. So like visually, it's pretty rough. Realistically, he got off pretty easy here. So I honestly think I'm going to go with the C tier. But let me know in the comments if you'd go higher. Commander Rourke, Atlantis. The leader of the expedition to Atlantis ends up betraying the rest of the team and trying to steal the heart of Atlantis. And while Milo and the crew try to stop him, he ends up betraying his right hand Helga as well, who shoots down his blimp. He goes crazy and tries to take out Milo with an axe, but Milo's able to take a shard of the heart and slice his arm with it. This causes him to turn into a crystallized blue monster, but he continues on with his attack before accidentally putting himself in the way of a propeller, shattering him into a million pieces. Pretty rough, I'd say. Like, yeah, you got the whole turning into a big blue crystal monster, which would suck. Don't get me wrong on that. But, yeah, the shattering into, like, thousands of pieces, that'll do the trick. That probably really sucked. I'd go A tier. Syndrome, The Incredibles. After being initially defeated by the Incredibles, the big bad of the movie Syndrome ends up going to their house and kidnapping their baby Jack Jack. Or at least attempting to, since Jack Jack has the power to manifest tons of different abilities and uses them to fuck his shit up. He ends up dropping him, but Mr. Incredible launches his wife to catch him, and while Syndrome is monologuing about how this isn't the end, Mr. Incredible decides otherwise and hurls a car at his jet, knocking him out the door, which is when Edna's advice from earlier comes in handy, as he gets sucked into the engine of the jet, causing it to explode. This has got to be one of the quickest, yeah, you're done, villain endings that I've seen. One second he's swearing his revenge, the next he's basically turned into people dust. No coming back from that one, buddy. This is sudden and I'm guessing excruciating. I think this is an S tier. Scroop, Treasure Planet. After a treacherous mutiny, Jim and the gang board the ship to try to disable the laser cannons. Scroop gets alerted of this though and tries to hunt them down. Jim gets the drop on him for a second, but then the lights go out. And once the emergency lights kick on, Scroop does his best Xenomorph impression to try and kill Jim. Morph, however, comes to the rescue, letting Jim try to fight him off. And then during the scuffle, the gravity gets deactivated, which allows him to trick Scroop into getting tangled up in the flag of the ship, leaving him floating up into the emptiness of space. So sort of like the opposite of falling this time. Now, he is an alien, so he might be fine out there, you know, just sort of floating around endlessly. We don't really know. Maybe it's like if I got launched into space, I would die instantly. Or maybe he just kept on floating around forever and eventually starved. Either way, probably not a fun time. But since it's pretty open-ended, we're just going to go middle of the road here and go with a B tier. King Candy, Wreck-It Ralph. When the whimsical king of the candy-based video game Sugar Rush turns out to actually be a nefarious character from another racing game, Turbo, he tries to sabotage Vanellope and ends up revealing himself. But unfortunately for him, she's able to glitch herself out of harm's way right before he's swallowed up by one of the video game bug monsters. But that's not the end of Turbo, as he's fused together now with the bug and becomes part of the swarm to try and destroy Sugar Rush. Ralph, however, is able to basically make a giant bug zapper that sucks all the other bugs in, and now since he's part bug too, Turbo's bug half takes over as he flies into the zapper as well. Now, bug zapper can't be a fun way to go, even if it's made out of Mentos and Diet Coke. But I also don't think this would be nearly as bad as some of the others here. Just sort of like, ooh, pretty light. Ooh, now I'm dead. I think I'd probably go C tier. Jafar, Aladdin. More specifically, Aladdin, The Return of Jafar, since, as we all know, at the end of the first movie, he's trapped in a lamp, at least until he makes his triumphant return here, which also sees his departure. In this direct-to-video sequel, after putting up with Jafar's abuse in the lamp, his sidekick from the first movie, Iago, decides he's had enough and tries to befriend Aladdin. It doesn't go great at first, and only gets worse when Jafar shows back up and takes control of the kingdom. Iago, however, comes to the rescue, and even though he's injured, ends up getting the lamp and knocking it into a pool of lava, which ends Jafar's reign and his life. And it does not look peaceful. As the lamp melts, Jafar basically implodes with magic lightning shooting out of him before he turns to dust. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. He does not look like he's having a good time here at all, and it's honestly kind of dragged out, which makes it a tad worse. I think this is going on A tier. Captain Hook, Peter Pan. Okay, this one kept coming up in my research for this video, and I've got a pretty big issue with it. At the end of the movie, Peter Pan and Hook end up having a sword fight on top of the ship. However, when it seems like Hook has the upper hand, Peter's able to wrap him up in his own flag and take the win. Hook then cries like a little bitch, until Peter's off his guard and he tries to attack him again. Pan dodges and sends Hook down below where he's swallowed by a crocodile. But he's able to escape. But then he's eaten again. But he's able to escape again, and this time swims away like his life depends on it, because, well, it does, while the crocodile and the rest of the crew follow behind. Now, do you see the issue here? Hook doesn't meet his end. And you might be saying to yourself, but wait, we don't know if Scroop from Treasure Planet died either. What's the big deal? The big deal is that Treasure Planet doesn't have a direct-to-video sequel where he's actually alive. So even though this one kept coming up when I was making the list, he's not dead. So this goes on D tier. Bill Sikes, Oliver and Company. After the nefarious loan shark Bill Sikes attempts to kidnap Oliver's owner, Jenny, she's rescued by the gang of animals. However, Sikes and his Dobermans chase after them, chasing him down into a subway. His dogs are fatally injured by the tracks, but when he's about to get a hold of Jenny, they pull away at the last second and holy fucking shit. Ouch. That looked like it hurt. Buddy just got absolutely demolished by that train. He looked up, saw the train light, and then saw the light. And not only is he getting hit, but his car is just absolutely exploded too. Yeah, that's gotta be tough. I think this is an A tier. Dr. Facilier, Princess and the Frog. Throughout the film, Facilier is constantly talking about his shadowy friends on the other side. However, they turn out to not be that friendly. When Tiana destroys his talisman, it renders him powerless and angers the spirits, who take this as him failing to deliver what he promised. In return, the shadows grab him and drag him into the mouth of a giant fiery demonic mask, as he's pleading for more time before he's sucked into the mask and it transforms into a giant tomb. It's not like particularly gruesome or anything, but just the implication of him being dragged, kicking and screaming into hell, that's gotta suck, you know? And like, he knows what's on the other side here, and I gotta tell you, he does not seem excited about it. I think this one might go on S tier. Mother Gothel, Tangled. Tangled? Maybe that's what they should have called the movie with Clayton in it. After recapturing Rapunzel, Mother Gothel ends up keeping her in the same tower once again so she can keep using her powers to stay young. Flynn Rider attempts to rescue her, but on purpose this time, and gets stabbed by Gothel. Rapunzel tells her that she'll stay her captive if she can heal him, but Flynn doesn't let her and cuts her hair, getting rid of her magical powers. This instantly makes Gothel start to revert to her real age, aging hundreds of years in an instance. She starts stumbling around, falls out the window, and when you think we're about to get another classic Disney fall, she ages so quickly that by the time her cloak hits the ground, there's no trace of her to be seen. Now, I'm aging at the normal pace, and that shit sucks. So I can't imagine aging that much that fast. I think this one's probably pretty painless compared to some of the others. So honestly, going with a C tier. Oogie Boogie, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Can you die if you're already dead? I don't know, but whatever happened to this guy doesn't look fun. After Jack Skellington breaks into his lair to rescue Sally and Sandy Claus, he notices a loose string hanging off Oogie and pulls it, causing him to unravel as a mountain of bugs spill out, with most of them falling into a lava pit below, before the last bug is squished by Santa himself. So I don't know if it's the unraveling, the bugs falling into the lava, or Santa's boot, but as long as we're not counting the PS2 game as canon, I think Oogie's pretty done for here. This would be the equivalent of like if somebody took off my skin, most of my cells fell into a pit of lava, and then my very last cell got squished by a jolly man in red. Which, funny enough, is how I want to go out someday. Definitely not the worst here, but not great either. So we're saying B tier. And last up, Hopper, A Bug's Life. After being initially tricked by Flick's fake bird, when Hopper is about to defeat Flick, a real one decides to pop up looking for a snack. Hopper assumes this is another trick until the bird screeches in his face, causing him to realize the very real danger in front of him. But at that point, it's too late as the bird snags him up and then takes him over to her nest where her hungry babies are waiting for a snack. As a human, this isn't inherently that scary. I mean, those birds are pretty cute, honestly. But trying to put myself into Hopper's shoes, or wings, I guess, this has got to be literally worst case scenario. Being torn bit by bit and eaten alive by adorable baby birds. Here's to all the brave bugs out there that ended up meeting the same fate. That's gotta be just a terrible way to go. This is probably the exact scenario that bugs have nightmares about. So I'm gonna go with an S tier. And there you have it, my ranking of the worst Disney villain deaths. Which character do you think got it the worst? Or did I miss any classic villains that should have been on the list? Let me know in the comments. Alright, well, I'm going to get back to trying to not become the next member of this list, and I hope you all do the same. My advice, don't get into a sword fight on a cliff. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, and if you didn't like the video, like and subscribe. I won't know the difference. Thanks for watching.